Welcome back, guys. We are here is the latter part of Stage 3, Week 3. We got the last 2 days. Um, I would say that the first couple days kind of lived up to the hype. Um, Shock, Boston was not close. We had a couple of great matches between Houston and Paris. Then Valiant upset the Dragons. We had a phenomenal match between New York and London that was super fun to watch. Um, and then Gladiators Shanghai was interesting, and Chengdu and Vancouver was also very entertaining. So, um, I've noticed that the viewership has dropped overall in OWL, which is sad to me because especially this stage I feel like is a lot more interesting than stage two. We've seen a lot of different compositions, which I think is awesome. And overall, I think the level of play has been up to. Stage two is a little bit of a lull for me, especially towards the end, but this stage has me completely enthralled. So, especially with how the stage playoffs are shaking out. I will go over that in either the predictions for next week in the first part or in a separate video, kind of breaking down those the chances for different teams because it really is getting complicated. There's a lot of teams that have like one loss or two losses that are still right in the thick of it with a couple of weeks to go. We also have the Atlanta Homestead coming up in a couple weeks, so that'll be super fun. And then like I said, I'm very excited for the stage playoffs to see how things have changed since stage number two. So, without further ado, we are going to start going through the predictions. I'm going to whip through them pretty quick today. So, London Spitfire, Washington Justice. I got London. I got them 4-0. I was going to go 3-0, but I really like how London played on Paris their last time out. Usually I would give that to Washington as a draw map because they're generally very good on defense on it, but not as much on offense. But seeing the success that London had last time out on Paris, I really think that that bodes well for them moving forward. And then otherwise, London is just a much better team. I think they're playing probably their best Overwatch of the year at least of this season. And Washington has been struggling. They still haven't won a map yet this stage. They've drawn a couple times, but that is it. So I got London taking that one and an easy 4-0. So this is an interesting matchup. We got Atlanta Reign. They're on their four-game losing streak to granted four of the best teams in the league. Then you got Philly, who did win last time out, but it was against Boston. They also lost to teams like Gladiators earlier on in the stage. So even though Philly's got a better record, I like Atlanta here. I think they're playing better Overwatch. I think um, they have a better read on goats in general. And Philadelphia has been just really unimpressive for me. Their performances have seemed super flat. It doesn't look like any of them are really having too much fun. I'm almost getting an outlaw vibe from them from stage one, where it's like when we're playing this comp, but we don't really like it. Just whatever. We're just like, can we just win easily, please? Um, and I think that Atlanta is a lot more suited for these maps as well, um, especially Nepal and Havana. Um, I think Numbani will be very interesting too to see if either of the teams bust out some interesting compositions. But like I said, I just think Atlanta's playing better Overwatch at the moment, and they will take down Philadelphia. I will say 3-1. Next match, another one that I'm curious about. We got Toronto Defiant taking on the Guangzhou Charge. So, looking at maps, you got Ilios, Paris, Hollywood, and then Watchpoint. So both these teams kind of on the struggle bus. They both kind of introduced a couple of new things. The Charge is more composition wise. Toronto, they have a new tank line. This is one where it's like both of these teams are kind of on the outside looking in. Toronto's in a little bit better shape, just record wise. Um, but looking at the map pool, I like I like Toronto. I was really tempted to go with Guangzhou. I like them on the first map, but other than that, I just don't see them beating Toronto on the other ones. I think on Hollywood, Toronto will pretty much be able to run a standard 3-3 or at least close to a standard 3-3, and Guangzhou won't be able to counter it. I think it's a similar story on Watchpoint as well. Watchpoint is a little bit um, wacky, but I still give Toronto the edge here. Guangzhou's fared pretty badly on escort maps in general. Um, the only thing I was like, can Guangzhou steal map 2 as well? Um, I think 2 is going to be a draw. I see 1-0 in halftime for Guangzhou, and then Toronto comes back and wins maps 3 and 4. But this one could go either way. I really think that this is an important match because these are must-win games for both of these teams. Like you're playing a mid to maybe even lower tier team, and you're in that same tier, so these are the ones you need to win. Like I said, Guangzhou needs a little more just because their record and map differential is in a little bit worse shape. But even, I mean, for Toronto too, these are must-win games. So we should see a highly contested one that time out. But I'm going with Toronto. This is my favorite match of the latter half of this week. I like Dynasty here. And I think I might be bordering on the Hanzhou like hate territory because I keep picking against them even though they're playing really well. But I don't know. I like what Dynasty's doing more. I don't know what it is with the spark. I haven't really identified it yet because it's not like I don't like them as a team. I have no problem with their players. I have no problem with their organization, their management. Um, I just need to see something else, and I'm not quite sure what it is. I think that I definitely want to do a full match analysis for them to kind of like pinpoint it. But I'm not sold. I'm sold that they're a very good team, but a lot of people are saying they're the fourth best team, and I just don't know. Of course, the Gladiators didn't make a very good case last time out. Shanghai made a good case against Gladiators, but then lost to Valiant. Seoul has looked inconsistent. So yeah, it's a throw-in. I think that honestly, if one team wins this match dominantly, I think I put them at number 4 because I don't know. The teams in like the 4 to 8 range they're very good sometimes, but they're also very inconsistent as opposed to that top three. So anyway, I like Seoul here mostly because I still like their 3-3 a little bit more. I really liked how they played Numbani last time. You got some Fleta on the Farah. Um, so I think that Seoul should be able to take maps 2 and 4 with more of the standard composition, like the 3-3. And then if they can pull out some of their wacky stuff and outdo the Spark at the DPS comps on map 3, then they give themselves a really good chance. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because the Spark they've been effective in some of these DPS based comps. So, like I said, I'm just going with Seoul. That's more of a feeling. I think that these two teams are very equally matched in terms of how they're playing right now. But Matt Poole and just my gut, I'm gonna go with Dynasty winning this one. Very close, 3-1. Next, we got Chengdu Hunters taking on the Dallas Fuel. So it's the rematch. Chengdu won last time out, 3-1, and I think I picked Dallas. I didn't pick them against Vancouver, but I think I picked them in a couple, 2 or 3. I picked them in a couple of their other losses. Um, I'm gonna go with them one more time. They're 1-4. I just don't. I think they're too. Even though they had a tough schedule, I think that they're too good to go to 1-5. Um, Chengdu is coming off of a close loss to Vancouver, and I really thought that they should have won. There were just mistakes. They just made mistakes that upper tier teams would not make. Um, and I think that the fact that Dallas lost to them last time, it's going to fuel them. They're going to have, no pun intended. They're going to have a lot of they're going to have like a lot of film on their matchup specifically. So I think for Dallas, this is kind of like your redemption because they're pretty much they're done with the stage playoffs. But I mean, now if they keep losing, they're in danger of like falling into the back half of the play-in tournament. So if they want one of those top 6 seeds, they need to start winning soon. Otherwise, it's going to be like too late almost by the time they get to stage 4. And like I said, the Hunters, I like them, I respect them, I love some of the comps that they run, but I just don't think that they're the kind of team that can. They give other teams problems, but I don't think they can ever really like truly capitalize. So I'm gonna go with Dallas here. I'm gonna say it's a 3-1. Um, Well, it'll be interesting to see who they play because they had Trill, their new main tank, playing last time out instead of OGE. So it'll be interesting to see which one they run in this matchup, and if they run anything wacky or if they just stick with the more standard 3-3. But like I said, I got more faith in Dallas to bounce back and take this match. Then you got Boston 0-5, the disastrous stage against Paris Eternal, who Paris, they still have a chance for the stage playoffs. They're still in the play-in tournament, like pack. They're there. I think they were in 11th or 12th last time I saw. Um, Boston is in danger of falling way out in terms of map differential and overall losses. Um, and I did think that Boston played better. They were significantly better against Shock. Now, it was still a 4-0, because I mean, shock are the shock. But like I said, I think that there were definitely promising signs for the uprising. The playing Doomfist and Sombra is interesting. It's worked decently well. I mean, I've said that Doomfist is a busted hero for a very long time. I mean, we saw in the Vancouver Chengdu match, Haxel just slaughtered the entire Chengdu team a couple times on Doomfist, almost single-handedly. Um, so we'll see how that if Boston continues to run that strategy of like the 2-2-2, and if it works against Paris with the new supports, I think Boston's starting to gel a little bit more. So I give them a decent chance in this match. I think they'll keep it close, but I still like Paris. I still think they're playing decent. Especially if it's on like the 3-3 type. When they've had to go to DPS, it's looked very, very ugly. But I feel like this is their kind of matchup, and they're going to win this one. I'm going to say 3-1. I think Boston's best chance is probably Oasis or Volskaya. Again, the latter half, I like Paris on those type of maps, especially Dorado. I think when teams have run uh, like more 2-2-2 stuff or 1-3-2, it hasn't panned out nearly as well, especially on Dorado. So, like I said, this should be a fun match. I think that Boston is going to continue to go back into the right direction, but I think Paris is in a better spot right now, and they take this match. Then it is Houston. They're now 3-1. They're getting closer to the stage playoffs, taking on Florida Mayhem. Mayhem are still a disaster. So I think if it was the start of season or stage 3, people would be like, "Oh, Houston should win, but Florida could be right there." I think this one's not even going to be close. Um, if there's anything that's, I don't know. I don't know if it's quite like how it translates, but I almost think that a bad Goats team against a team that's playing DPS is even worse than a bad Goats team playing against a good Goats team. So I think Houston, I mean, they're going to do their thing. They're going to run a bunch of Sombra. They're going to run a lot of Pharah. And I think Florida's just not really going to know what to do. This roster looks like it has not gelled yet, and they're not even really close to gelling. I think they're the worst team in the league by a significant margin. I think Justice would take care of them handily if they played. I really do. Um, Justice is bad, but I think that they're almost like a tier above Florida at this point. I haven't really seen anything from the Mayhem that I can really take positively, except Fate is better than Swan was. But I knew that I knew that when the trade happened. I was saying it all along, but it hasn't made much of a difference. The coordination is just not there. I mean, you got guys like Saya and BQB who are great DPS players, but in this GOATS meta are just average would be a compliment. I think that would be very generous. I would say bad at goats. Um, and yeah, Houston has they have a better grasp on what's working for them right now. They got Ilios and Paris where they can try out some off meta strategies, and I think they're just gonna snowball it from there. I'm gonna say Florida snags map 4. Houston maybe gets a little ahead of themselves. Florida gets off to a good start, and then they snowball that into a map win. But I'm taking Outlaws in this one, 3-1 overall. And if they do, they'll improve themselves to 4-1 and put themselves in very good shape for the stage 3 playoff. Who would have thought? And the final match of the week we got LA Valiant, Vancouver Titans. So the Valiant, I mean, looking at the Valiant, they went 0-7 in Stage 1. But if you look at their numbers since then, they're 6-5. They've been a middle of the pack team. I would call them like probably the 10 or 11 team right now in the league in terms of just how they're playing. I think you could probably argue them for as high as 9, honestly. Um, because besides, I mean, I'll run through it really quickly. You got Vancouver, San Francisco, Shanghai, New York, LA Glads, Hangzhou Spark, London Spitfire, and did I say Seoul Dynasty? I'd say those you could definitely say they're better than the Valiant, but I truly believe you can make an argument that the Valiants are better than any other team in the league right now. Here I'm gonna check the standings really quick just to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Just go to league. Yep, so they're better. Yep, 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 yep. Yeah, these top 8. But after that, I mean, Philly, Dallas, Toronto, Paris, Atlanta, Chengdu. I think you could make a legitimate argument that the Valiant and the Outlaws are better than all of those teams right now. So, um, Valiant they're playing some good Overwatch right now, and they're looking like a team that should be a lower tier playing team at least. So, what does this mean for their Vancouver match? Absolutely nothing. I think Vancouver wins this one very easily. Valiant they did last time out bust out the Sombra. They were playing against the Dragons, so you don't want to play a standard 3-3 Gladiators. Valiant had the right idea. They were very well coached. They took out Space, who is one of the best divas in the world, an all-star caliber player easily. They took him out, benched him the whole match. They bring in Shax, a DPS player that they acquired at the beginning of this stage or after stage 2, and boom, they ran him on Summer the whole match. They had other comps based around that, and they beat Dragons at their own game essentially. So I really want to see them do that again against Vancouver. Valiant, please do not put Space back in and run 3-3 against Vancouver. Please don't do it. Okay, that's my plea because it will be I think it'll be brutal. It'll be a 4-0 if that happens. If the Valiant play the Sombra the whole time, I think it becomes a little more interesting. I still think Vancouver's going to win this. I think they've beaten better teams who have run the Sombra at them, but the Valiant should be able to give them at least some problems if Shax plays well. So I'm going to give Valiant a map. I think it's going to be probably map 2, if any. It's got to be 1 or 2. They looked good on the control maps so far, and then of course Paris is always a bit of a wild card. Which I love Paris for Overwatch League spectating. Playing on it, not so much. But like I said, I think this is going to be totally come down to LA's coaching. Yesterday we saw it. Shanghai versus Gladiators. Gladiators lost that match because they were not well coached. They didn't have a good plan going in. I don't think it was because they have worse players or that they got particularly outplayed on that day. I just thought that their game plan was bad, and Shanghai was very good at taking advantage of that. But I'll save a Gladiator coaching rant for another time. For now, that is it for the predictions for today and tomorrow. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any big upsets brewing, any teams you think I'm low on that I shouldn't be, or any teams you think I'm high on that I shouldn't be. Let me know what you think. I am curious to know. And I'm also curious to know what are your guys' impressions of Stage 3 as a whole if you're watching it. Do you think the same as me, like it's an upgrade for sure over the last stage? Or are you still kind of bored and losing interest? So yeah, that concludes the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have yourselves a tremendous couple of days, and then I'll see you in the next one.